There's been some pretty fantastic films released lately. I watched and dug Free Guy. I consumed the gleefully violent and wonderfully heartfelt Suicide Squad, but nothing has kicked my ass quite as hard as the latest offering from Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.
Who are you?
Shang-Chi stars Simu Liu as the titular hero Shang-Chi, who spends his days working with his best friend Katie, played by the hilarious and, believe it or not as loud as you'd expect, Awkwafina. When they're not working as valets, they're performing terrible karaoke and disappointing Katie's family with their lack of ambitions. It's only when they're attacked by assassins that Shawn reveals his true identity and is forced to find his distant sister and confront his controlling father, played by the legendary actor Tony Leung, who is the head of the mysterious organisation, the Ten Rings, teased all the way back in Iron Man 3. The plot of the film largely follows Marvel's Phase 1 origin film formula, and lacks a lot of the cosmic craziness that crept into the last Avengers films. In its place, Shang-Chi brings a brand new kung fu flavour to the MCU. Director Destin Cretton understands one of the major fundamentals of action filmmaking. Each action scene should be driving the plot forward, while also be revealing more about the film's characters, and it's here that Shang-Chi really soars. Simu Liu was a great choice to play the lead. He has a great, low-key charisma that gives him an everyman quality. Despite being probably the best brawler in the MCU to date, Simu Liu is also given the opportunity to flex his dramatic muscles, especially later in the film. I love that Marvel movies aren't afraid to let their characters experience actual emotions, rather than just throwing them headlong into CGI smash-em-ups. Even though Shang-Chi totally does that too. Simu Liu has had a pretty incredible rise to fame with this film. He had fantastic comedic timing and great presence on his television show Kim's Convenience, which was also amazing and is currently streaming on Netflix, and you should seek that out. It's no joke when I say he has a very bright future in playing this new character. I was honestly expecting Awkwafina to be used for nothing other than comedic relief, especially based on the way the trailers were setting her up. Thankfully, she's used as more of an audience surrogate, asking the questions that we have and pointing out the absurdity of all of the chaos happening around her. It's the right amount of humour, while also allowing her relationship with Shawn to shine through. Her chemistry with Simu Liu was phenomenal, and flirts the line of being a friend and also something more. I love how they portray their friendship. In fact, outside of the crazy great action, it was probably my favourite element of the film. I really hope they continue to keep her around in future hypothetical sequels. Another interesting character in the film was Shawn's sister, Xiaoling, played by Meng'er Zhang. She was really built up in an organic, interesting way, to the point where she herself could have been headlining and been the protagonist of this film. She has some interesting developments, especially towards the end of the film, and without delving into too many spoilers, I think she's going to be another major player alongside her brother in the MCU moving forwards. Ultimately, if anyone walks away with the MVP of the film, it's Tony Leung. He brings an air of legit authenticity to what some might consider to be a silly comic book movie. Leung is one of Asia's most recognisable, successful and critically acclaimed actors. In playing Shang-Chi's father Wenwu, Leung imbues his character with depth and pathos. He's a villain, but he's never played like a villain. His perspective and reasons for doing what he's doing are sympathetic and relatable, and this makes his character interesting and complicated. He's not evil, nor is he a monster. He's a broken man, doing things he believes will bring happiness back into his life. Leung is a great inclusion here, one of those actors who can communicate more with a glance than most can with a monologue. His starring role shows that Marvel's casting directors are at the top of their game. When Shang-Chi was first announced, it was conceptualized as a martial arts film, and more often than not, Hollywood blockbusters have a habit of butchering what is so great about Eastern Kung Fu flicks. The action is clean, clear, and easy to follow. The crew of Shang-Chi clearly knew this and have delivered a martial arts masterpiece that has way more in common with the best of Jackie Chan, rather than the quick cut, close shot, shaky cam, unintelligible cinematography of most Hollywood action movies. The action in Shang-Chi is phenomenal. Each action set piece is wildly different and cleverly constructed. The first half of the film is surprisingly action heavy, and each of the main characters is given their moment to shine. Simu Liu is a very physical actor, and the dedication to the action cinematography shows that the filmmakers knew exactly what they were doing. Shang-Chi set out to bring a kung fu style to the Marvel movie machine, and, in my opinion, was super successful, drawing on inspirations ranging from wuxia masterpieces like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Hero, all the way through to slapstick bouts inspired by Jackie Chan with a smattering of the Raid's physicality. Shang-Chi even pays homage to animes like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto. The action is fast, slick, engaging, and entertaining, and most importantly, treats the camera as an active participant in each beautiful brawl. There was even some subtle Studio Ghibli influences on the film. If this is what they're doing in Shang-Chi's first outing, I can't wait to see what happens further down the line. The pacing of the movie, I thought, was pretty spot on. The action beats are broken up with flashbacks that develop the characters, and it's only in the second act that there's any real significant slowdown in the plot. I think, if anything, this extended sequence, where the action slows down a bit and the third act is established, is where the movie drags a bit. It's not enough to derail the film. I just think it could have been trimmed down a fraction to keep the energy as high as it was in the film's first half. The climax kind of reminded me a little bit of Black Panther, with separate factions all fighting against one another, but I think that Shang-Chi does it much better. It finds smaller battles to focus on, allowing the audience to follow key elements into the big battle before it heads into a suitably epic confrontation that hasn't even been hinted at in the trailers. The escalation of action in Shang-Chi is nearly perfect, and I was pretty much blown away by the time the credits rolled. Speaking of credits rolling, MCU veterans know to stick around. Shang-Chi has 2 post-credit scenes, and both are pretty great. One of these stingers sets up some big lore and foreshadows some interesting developments for the future that I'm very interested in knowing more about. The post-credit actually set up new developments and teased the audience for a potential sequel, and I'm on board for much more of what's to come. I think that's why I like this movie so much. Without spoiling anything, Shang-Chi has hit the feeling I got when reading the comics. The feeling like everything's connected and characters could pop up here and there and everyone is occupying the same world in a very organic way. I haven't even touched on how Shang-Chi pays off long-standing questions from earlier Marvel films, or spoken about some of the fun characters from other films that pop up here in cameos. We've come a long way from Iron Man, and if Shang-Chi is anything to go by, Marvel looks to be branching out and bringing in new, interesting and diverse influences that cut deep into comic book history. Overall, I think Shang-Chi is a home run for Marvel. I give it an A-. It's everything I've been wanting from Marvel since Avengers Endgame, and it really feels like the start of Phase 4 after the flashback setting up of Black Widow. Shang-Chi has set the bar really high for Marvel, and I'm interested in seeing what the Eternals has going on. Then, it's only another few months to the new Spider-Man, which, judging by the first trailer, is going to be all sorts of multiverse insanity. It's a brand new day at Marvel, and it sure is great to have these movies. Hopefully, wherever you are, you all have the chance to get out and watch them. You know, unless we all go into lockdown again. As always, if you want to see more reviews, like and subscribe to see more, and I'll see you at some point soon. Later days.